If you're the sort who would take the high road to China, accompanied by the Raiders of the Lost Ark, in search of King Solomon's mines, then the Outgunned adventure role playing game might be for you. And I will share my review right after this. Happy holidays, gang, and welcome back to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I jump into today's review, I do want to mention if you enjoy the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG. To do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. You can also make a one-time donation by way of PayPal or become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also, down in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. Absolutely free to sign up, so be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. The Gaming Gang 12 Days of Reviews continues, as today I'll be sharing my thoughts about Outgunned Adventure from Two Little Mice and Free League Publishing. This 260-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $49.99, which does include the PDF if you order from Free League Publishing. And if you just want to get the PDF alone, you can swing on over to DriveThruRPG and pick it up for $19. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Outgunned Adventure. A couple of things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Free League Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. These days, it's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the book, but I do want to give you a really good feel what you're going to find inside. All right, first thing we're going to do is take a look at the credits page. Let's make sure we give credit where credit is due. Now, you might recall a few months ago, I reviewed Outgunned. So this is Outgunned Adventure. This is a standalone book. You do not have to have Outgunned in order to utilize Outgunned Adventure. Outgunned is focused on cinematic action. So movies like John Wick and Nobody 2, Die Hard, those would fall into Outgunned. Whereas Outgunned Adventure's focus is on pulpy action, two-fisted tales, Raiders of the Lost Ark, High Road to China, King Solomon's Mines. I already mentioned those all in the opening. So you might also recall I gave Outgunned a 10 out of 10. Stay tuned. I'm going to tell you how Outgunned Adventure stacks up to that. So this is a pretty rules-light game and a lot of abstraction here. This does utilize a 6-sided dice pool. So you're going to take your attribute and you're going to add a skill, and that's going to give you your pool of 6-sided dice. You are not looking to roll a particular number or to roll a total, like a target number or higher. You're actually looking to match faces on the dice, such as 2 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, and so forth. Now, as far as the number of dice you want to have handy, you want to make sure you've got at least 9, because that's the most dice anybody can ever roll. Fewest number of dice when you're trying to do something is going to be 2. So even if you don't really have much of a chance to pull something off, you're still going to at least get 2 dice to roll. Like maybe say you started off with 5 dice, but then There are all these challenges ahead of you, all these disadvantages of what you're trying to attempt, which would actually remove dice. Maybe you're only stuck with 2, even if it tells you, oh, you should have 0, you would still have 2. 2 matching faces is a basic success. 3 is a critical success. It goes all the way up to 6, which is jackpot. I actually think jackpot's really cool because it'll actually allow you to succeed spectacularly at what you were looking to accomplish. And then you also get to be the game master for the rest of the scene. Pretty sweet. So we're going to start off with our characters. We're going to have a role. So we've got roles like Daredevil, the Professor. There's a Daredevil right here. And then we also have tropes. So looking at the character role is going to give you an idea of the sort of character, the sort of things that that character is going to focus on. And then, of course, we also have some examples of these roles. So with our Daredevil, we've got Indiana Jones, we have Rick O'Connell in The Mummy, Nathan Drake in Uncharted, Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, etc. Those would be Daredevils. So you're going to pick a catchphrase, you're going to pick a flaw, you are going to get an attribute points, and that it would be in brawn. So we do have different attributes. Everybody gets 2 points in the attributes. In fact, I'll show you a blank character sheet here. So just like so, we've got brawn, nerves, smooth, focus, and crime. And then underneath each, we have got the skills. So we have 4 skills for each of the attributes. So brawn would have endure, fight, force, stunt. Focus has detect, fix, heal, know. Like I said, pretty abstract here. So you'll have skill points. You'll get to choose a couple of feats, and then it'll also tell you what sort of gear that you have available to your character. And then you would choose a trope. Now, the tropes are going to give you some more aspects to your character. So as an example, we've got the gentle giant. You're going to get to add an attribute point in brawn or smooth. Well, if you're a Daredevil, you already got that point in brawn. So there are only 3 points. So you would be adding it to smooth. You'd get another feat. And then you would have your skill points here. There is also the special role. So if you are playing maybe 1 player character and a game master, or maybe 2 players and a game master, you have the opportunity to have special roles. So these are like the big stars of the film. So they are going to be far more capable than just a standard character, a standard adventurer. But the thing is, standard adventurers are really capable already. But what this does, it allows for like solitaire play or one-on-one play without having to really sit there and make a lot of changes to a published adventure or things along those lines. Other things to keep in mind about the adventurers, we've got grit, sort of their hit points. We've got different conditions. You have 1 point of luck. You have a spotlight point. You have 1 cash. Cash money is very, very abstract in this. We have gear. And then we also have the death roulette, which I love. I think this is so cool. So you're going to start off with 1 of these cylinders marked off because, yes, on the character sheet, it is the cylinder from a revolver. So anytime you're left for dead, anytime you've lost all of your grit, you're going to roll a 6-sided die. And you need to roll higher than your death roulette. So starting off, you just need to roll higher than a 1. If you rolled a 1, then your character has died. And normally in two-fisted pulpy tales, characters, they buy the farm on occasion. So as far as action resolution, you're going to have a dice pool. As I pointed out, you will have your attribute, you'll have your skill. You're going to add those together. That's going to give you a pool. So as an example, let's say I've got a 3 in the attribute and 2 in the skill. So it would give me 5 dice in order to roll. So let's say, as an example, the game master has told me I need to get a critical success. So this is one of those role-playing games where the player will be informed what they need to roll. So this isn't a situation where it's like, oh, well, you know, you got a target number, but I'm not telling you the target number. So here we go. Let's see what we got. Well, I got a basic success, which are 2 of a kind. I need a critical success, which is 3 of a kind. Now it's possible maybe I have a feat, which allows me a free reroll, which would allow me to reroll these dice without having to worry about losing this basic success I've already got. Now, you can do a reroll, but if you fail on improving this, then you actually lose one of your successes. So let's say I don't have a feat that gives me a free reroll. So I am going to reroll. Now, this would actually give me 2 basic successes. It still doesn't get me the critical success, but this does improve my roll. Now I have 1 option left. I can go all in. Now I'm going to roll the die. If I go all in, I need to get a 2 or a 4 to get that critical success. Otherwise, all my successes get wiped out. I already know I'm not going to be able to pull off that critical success with what I've got. Now, you know, I'm going to fail, but I won't fail as badly as I could have. But as a player, I would go all in, see what we got. Oh, look at that. That would give me my critical success. One thing I absolutely love about the dice mechanics in Outgunned and Outgunned Adventure is that it leads to a lot of excitement around the table, a lot of pushing your luck, a lot of re-rolls, a lot of, oh no, he blew it, he didn't, you know, and then on the flip side, people cheering when, you know, you're successful. I love that. I think that is very, very well done. For the most part, there are different mechanics here that you might get more dice, fewer dice. But all in all, that is the action resolution mechanic. So I should also point out that you've got action rolls, and you also have dangerous rolls. Using this as an example here, let's say maybe I was studying a scroll and I was trying to decipher this ancient scroll for a clue. Would I get hurt if I fail that? No. But if I were doing something that was dangerous and I failed, that would cost me grit. And depending on the difficulty of what's trying to be done, or even in combat, same thing, based on like the weapons being used and the successes that are rolled, I could lose grit. And if I lose all the grit, then of course I'm left for dead and I have to roll on that death roulette. So that's how taking damage works as far as the dice pool system. Dangerous rolls right here as an example. So if it's basic and you failed, you lose 1 grit. Critical would be 3. Extreme would be 9. If it's impossible, you're going to lose all of your grit. So that gives you an idea of the differences in that. You could have multiple successes that you need to roll. So it's possible maybe you've got a couple of things that you need to worry about, a couple of things working against you. You might need to have 2 basic successes or maybe critical successes. A lot of it's going to have to do with the pool of dice that you've got available to you. So as an example, if I had 5 dice, but I need 2 critical successes, which are 3 of a kind, I know I have to do something that's going to give me more dice. Maybe I have aid from another character. Maybe I've got gear that's going to give me extra dice. So keep that in mind. You're not only looking to roll a certain kind of success, you might need to roll multiple successes. So then we're also going to get into our extended rolls and opposed rolls. So extended rolls would be something like, a big chase scene. You're not going to just roll one pool of dice for a big chase scene. Just like we've got opposed rolls where maybe you're doing the adventurer against the game master, or in this case, they're known as the director. Or maybe you're rolling dice where it's adventurer versus adventurer. Then we move into our gear. So get gear and guns, cash. Once again, as I mentioned before, cash is very abstract. So you'll just have dollars. So $1 is pretty basic gear that's easy to find. $2 is more expensive or rarer items. And then 3 is a luxury item. So $3, $3 is the luxury item. Then we're going to get into information about temples and traps. We've got a variety of different traps available to us. Start getting into more of the director section about how to run the game, how to really get the right tone and pace for an outgunned adventure. We have a bestiary with some supernatural foes. And we'll also get an example adventure, which is pretty short, but I got to say, pretty interesting. There are some pretty cool little puzzles involved because remember, this is supposed to be pulpy action. This is supposed to be like, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where there's always some sort of riddle or cipher that needs to be figured out. So cool little adventure here. I would think it's going to run you maybe a session, maybe a little more than a session, but it's not, a real long adventure. Then we'll get some example characters here that you can utilize for that adventure. If you want to go pre-gens, just kind of teach the players how to play. And then you'll wrap up with those blank character sheets that I had showed you previously. So there's a peek inside Outgunned Adventure from Two Little Mice and Free League Publishing. Once again, this is available now. Carries an MSRP of $49.99. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, now if you order from Free League, you'll actually get the PDF with this. But if you just want the PDF itself, you can do so over at DriveThruRPG for $19. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you might recall my review of Outgunned. I gave that a 10 out of 10. I thought it modeled cinematic action really, really nicely. It's a super easy rules system for newcomers to learn. It's easy to wrap your head around the different levels of successes that you need. And the dice mechanics with the dice pool and pushing your luck adds to a lot of excitement and a lot of tension around the table. Well, that's just as true for Outgunned as it is for Outgunned Adventure. In fact, I think the Outgunned system maybe is a little better geared towards two-fisted pulp action than in cinematic action movies. And remember, I just told you I gave Outgunned a 10 out of 10. Production quality for the book is excellent. Really nice, thick paper stock. Only thing is, it's got that weird, like, matte finish that sometimes kind of rubs off on some of these books. I have not seen that happen yet with this, but it does have that kind of finish that we'll sometimes see. I'd mentioned this with another review very recently, sort of finish that we would see on some of the alternate covers for the 5e D&D. And I had found that rubbed off or got scratched pretty easily. I don't know if that's going to be the case here. It just does feel sort of like that. That's it. That is my only negative. Okay. One other is the advancement rules for characters isn't real in depth. But the reality is, your adventurers start off pretty capable. And honestly, do we see a whole lot of change for like Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark to The Last Crusade? I mean, capabilities wise, not really. So I don't think the advancement's that big a deal. I mean, your characters will improve. It's just after 4 adventures, you're not going to see that they're radically different like you would maybe see in a fantasy role playing game. So I absolutely love Outgunned Adventure. So since I don't do an 11, this is not Spinal Tap. I give Outgunned Adventure a 10 out of 10. Very nicely done. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, be sure to ring that bell because it's supposed to let you know not only when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings. Usually, I am on a little bit of a holiday break, but it's right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. In fact, I return January 6th with a fresh, brand new live stream. The Gaming Gang 12 Days of Reviews will continue. I should also point out on New Year's Eve, I will be sharing my favorite role-playing games of 2025 on top of an additional review. So be sure to tune in for that. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Happy holidays once again. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.